In this video, we're going to be going over how to draw a face that's holding a more unique and expressive sort of expression. Generally, when we learn how to draw the face, we draw the face holding a still frontal position. But for this tutorial, you're going to be focusing on how to draw a face that's maybe at a different angle or holding a kind of weird expression to kind of take it a little bit further in how you draw and understanding the dynamics of the face. So to get started, we're going to start by just developing some guidelines so that I know the angles that I have to draw the features at. So I'm going to start by drawing an oval. It gives me the general position of the face. Now I can see, looking at the photograph that I'm using, my model, that her head is tilted at slightly an angle. So I'm drawing this line here so that I remember that her eyes are at a slight angle, which means this one is a little bit lower than that one. That's an important thing to keep in mind. Her body's a little bit twisted, which is good to keep in mind because that will sort of reinforce the effect of the look that she's giving. So I'm just going to block that in quickly just so that I can keep track of her position. With her nose as kind of the main center line, I can see that her head is slightly tilted. So I'm going to draw a curved line demonstrating that tilt across the face, so that I can keep in mind that her cheek is going to be wider on one side than it is on the other. I might choose to draw some lines for nose and mouth as well, just to help keep track of that angle, so I have a rough idea of where everything lies. Now to start, I'm using just an F pencil to lightly sketch in where everything is. So I'm just going to start sketching it in, following the guidelines that I've shared in previous videos of locations for eyes and nose and so forth. I'm not worried about making it exact right now. I just want to get the rough position in, and I will use a darker pencil to kind of get those in more accurately. Because right now I'm just very much focused on getting the right positions. I'm not too stressed about getting the expression just right, and the expression can only be correct once I start applying values and things like that. Okay, now that I've roughly blocked in the position of the features of the face for the most part, I'm going to start going over with the slightly stronger pencil. So I'm moving from an F to an HB, and that's going to allow me to firm up my lines before I erase all my guidelines. So I want to make sure as few of those guidelines will appear as possible in my final version of this drawing. Okay, so now that I've roughly blocked this in, I can see a couple of problems with my drawing. One is that although I've done an okay version of her eye here, I've made this eye way too wide. I forcibly have made the eyelid big because that's what I'm used to doing. So to actually get this expression, I really need to change this eye rather significantly to get that look right. So I'm going to erase the top portion of that eye, because I need to completely redraw that top lid. Now if I look at it, I notice that I've actually lowered that eye a little bit, and I wanted to make sure that it was higher than the other, so I'm going to have to bring it up. It's also allowed me to make it a little bit larger, so that I get a rough idea of where this is. Okay, so now I'm feeling better about the position and the attitude portrayed in this drawing. It's not perfect yet, there's still values to place in, but it's getting me the rough idea of what I want. So my next step is I need to erase all the unnecessary information. Okay, so to erase the unnecessary information, I am going to use a kneadable eraser. Remove the old eraser shavings to start. So to do that, I'm going to put it into a sort of snake shape, and then I'm just going to roll it. By rolling it, it lightens the dark lines, but it removes the light lines almost entirely, which allows me to see my image a little bit more clearly and focus on the parts of the drawing that I want to give attention, or rather I want the audience to have attention on. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm actually thinking I'd rather use a fine tip pen for this. So I am going to just block in my shadows with the HB using hatching lines. Okay, so at this point we are just working on applying values in a few areas just so that we can help define what is going on in this image. And I'm just doing this with pencil quickly because in a moment I'm going to use a fine tip pen to finish it. And I want to make sure I have a good idea of where these lines need to go when I use hatching marks using a pen, just to get the general effect of what is going on in the image. Now with the hair, I still need to decide whether I'm going to do hatching marks in the hair, which might look a little bit streaky, or if I'm going to stylize it a little bit, but at the very least I'm going to put in a bit of the values that are in this image and try to focus on parts that are broken within the hairline, just to make it look a little bit natural, despite the fact that I'm planning on using sort of a graphic style on this one. Okay, so I've generally roughed in all the information, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deal with my contour lines. To do with my contour lines, I'm going to use a medium thickness of pen. I'm using a 0.4. And I'm going to go over all the main lines just to delineate, and then I'm going to use a thinner pen, and with that 0.1 I'm going to go through and do the hatching marks to create my image.